So we'll see what those errors are. That is very important, because whenever we do any analytical method, we are believing on the method that whatever result I am getting, that is correct result, because based on the result only you are releasing the batch into the market, because what you are analyzing the pharmaceuticals, right? So pharmaceuticals, they should be of good quality, and how you are checking the quality? By performing the series of analytical tests. So as an analyst, I am believing on the test results. So if anything wrong happening with the test results due to some errors, then what will happen? Ultimately we may say the good product as a bad product, or bad product as a quality product, and then lot of things can happen. So we need to take care of those errors, the errors which are intentionally introduced or the errors which are unintentionally introduced. Okay, so how we can define the errors? So what are errors? Errors is not a mistake, but rather a difference between a computed, estimated or measured value. Okay, so you have performed, for example, you have performed the titration, right? All of you have performed the titration. You have performed the titrations, right? Now let's say you got the reading. Usually we do a titration in replicate measurement. Okay, we do a replicate measurement. So what we do? First reading, let's say it was 10.0. Second reading, again it was 10.0. Third reading I have taken, again it was 10.0. So I have done the titration of same sample using same instrument, right, by the same analyst. 3 times I have done the titration, and then what I will do, I will take the average reading of this. Now in this case all readings are same, so obviously average will be 10.0 ml. So this is my average reading. So this is the reading, what we call it as a computed, estimated or the measured value, or this can also be considered as an experimental value, the value or the results what you got by doing an experiment or performing an experiment. Okay, so this is a computed result. 10 ml is my computed result for a particular sample. Now I have certain standards which we call it as a standard value, or we call that as a accepted true value, or the specified value, or the theoretically correct value. So ideally we do not have any 100% kind of standard, so we consider certain values as a standard values. Now let's say for that particular sample, if the standard value is 10.5 ml, okay, so I have written here 2 values. One value which is the computed value, the experimental value, that is 10 ml, and the other value is the value which we are considering as a correct value. Now is there any difference between these two values? One is 10 ml, other one is 10.5 ml. So ideally you should get 10.5, but practically you got 10.0 ml. So if I do a subtraction of this, so 10.5 minus 10 ml, so it will be 0.5 ml. So what does it mean? This 0.5 ml is the difference between the experimental value and, so this is experimental value and this is the theoretical value or the standard value. So there is a difference of 0.5 ml. So why this difference has arisen? So this difference is due to certain errors what we are introducing intentionally or unintentionally. Usually we don't do intentionally, but they are basically by some fault or some kind of bad things, right, or unintentional things happening in the instrument or somewhere in the method, like that. Okay, so it denotes, the error denotes the uncertainty in the measurement or the experiment. So usually it happens, right? So if I am asking one group of 2 students to, I have given one sample, let's say sample A is given to one group and same sample is given to the other group. Okay, so this is group A and this is group B. So group B, their reading was, let's say, 10.2 ml average reading, and Group A, they got the reading of 10 mm. So you can just see from group to group, again there is a deviation, though the sample is same, though the lab is same, right, though the instructor or the teacher is also same, but one group is getting 10.2 ml reading, other group is getting 10.0 ml reading. So this is a error. There is an error in between this. So you have changed the group or analyst, and there is certain error which is introduced by whom? So this is a error introduced by the person who is doing. So group A have different skill, group B have slightly different skill, and then there is a small deviation between their readings. Okay, so I can say the group B is closer, the group B is closer to the standard reading, right, because they are getting near to 10.5. So 10.5 is a standard reading, whereas group A is little far away from the standard reading. So who is more accurate among these two groups, A or B? Which group is more accurate? Standard reading is how much? 10.5 ml is the standard reading, or what we call it as accepted true value. Group A is getting 10 ml reading and group B is getting 10.2 ml reading. So who is more accurate, A or B?
B.
Obviously group B is more accurate because there is a difference of just 0.3, right? Here with A there is a difference of 0.5. So this is what we call it as accuracy. Okay, so whenever we talk about the analytical methods, we talk about the accuracy. What is accuracy? Accuracy is a degree of freedom between the computed or experimental value with that of the actual or the accepted true value. या दोघांमधला जो डिफरन्स असतो त्याला आपण म्हणतो accuracy. Okay, that is accuracy. It is a degree of freedom between that. So this is actually the absolute error. So we can find out the absolute error by doing a subtraction of this experimental and theoretical value. Okay, and then we need to find out why there is a difference between these. Okay, why you are not getting the accurate results? Is it because of the impurities, or it is because of some errors which are happening in the method, or the person is introducing error, or some XYZ reason? Okay, so that is basically a concept of error. So we can define error, they are not the mistakes, but rather a difference between your experimental value with that of the accepted true value. Okay, and it denotes the uncertainties in the measurement or the experiment. So when we are repeating the experiment, or the same sample is given to the other person, there are certain deviations. Okay, there are certain uncertainties. Because of that, we are required to study this. Okay, how we can minimize those uncertainties, how we can overcome the errors so that we get the accurate results. Okay, and we can rely the methods, because ultimately we have to judge the quality of the pharmaceuticals, right? So this is the concept of errors. Now there are basically two types of errors. We can classify the errors in general by two ways. Okay, so the first kind of error is what we refer it as a systematic error. Okay, it is referred as a systematic error. This is also known as determinant error, and it also has the another name, that is non-random error. Okay, so this is a first type of error. First type we can consider it as a systematic, or they are also considered as a determinant, or they are also considered as a non-random errors. Now we'll see one by one why they are considered as a systematic, determinant and non-random. I will come to this point. We will try to understand why these terms are given for the first type. Then second type is exactly opposite to the first. Here I have written systematic, here I have written non-systematic. Here it is written determinant, here I have written the indeterminate, and here it is non-random, here I have written random. Okay, so they are the anonyms of each other, opposite terms of each other: systematic, non-systematic, determinant, indeterminate, non-random, random. And there is another term which defines the second type, that is the accidental errors, the errors which are happening due to some accidental kind of things. Okay, now we will try to understand each of these terms. Okay, so we can define the errors, right, and then we can classify the errors into two main types, and these are the two main classes or types of errors. Okay, now we will discuss the first type, systematic errors. Okay, so these are the errors, as the name implies, are determinable. So we can determine where something is wrong, who is introducing the error, okay, who is the culprit, who is giving the error, who is not allowing me to get the accurate results. I can find out, I can trap those sources. So that's why they are called as a determinant error. Now you can understand why this first type has a name determinant, because we can determine, we can find out the source of impurities or the source of error, right? And if you are able to find out, obviously you can avoid that or you can correct that, right? So if you know who is the culprit, so you can remove that person, right, or you can avoid that person, so that you will get your results. So that's why they are called as a determinant errors, because we can determine those, and once we can determine, we can avoid those or we can correct those. These errors are non-random and occur when something is wrong with the measurement. Okay, so you may be knowing the meaning of random. Okay, random means I can collect or I can choose some students, let's say non-randomly. Non-randomly means I am intentionally asking some students to answer the questions. Randomly means I don't have anything set in my mind. I will randomly, I will ask any student. Okay, I will take any name of the student, I will call any roll number of the student, and I will ask, give the answer for this. So that is a random. And non-random means I will ask the questions only to the first 10 roll numbers. So I have decided certain criteria. So that is non-random. Okay, so these first type of errors are non-random. That means they have certain source and they are coming peculiarly from that particular point. Okay, so we can trap those, we can find out those, we can determine those, and they occur, such kind of errors occur when something is wrong with the measurement. Okay, then these errors may be additive or multiplicative. Okay, so what is the meaning of this? We will try to understand with the help of one example. Let's say I want to weigh on digital balance. Okay, I want to weigh 1 gram of substance. I have to weigh 1 gram of my substance or sample, 1 gram of sample. Now let's say the instrument has a problem. Somebody told in the beginning fault or faulty kind of things will introduce the error. Yes, they were correct. Now let's say instrument समजा balance है, I have a balance, so there is a pan and there is a display unit here. So we see the display. If it is 1.0 gram, that means if the display is showing 1.0 gram, that means it is 1 gram exactly, right? Now suppose if the instrument is showing this as a problem, so instrument is showing it is 1 gram, but actually it is not 1 gram. So some kind of problem or some instrumental deviation or instrumental fault is there, and because of that you are able to see 1.0 gram, but actually it is less than that. Actually it is less than that. You are trying to weigh 1 gram, but what is the actual weight? It is 0.9 gram, for example. So there is a difference of 0.1 gram. Okay, display instrument is telling you it is 1 gram, but actually it is 0.9 gram. So there is a fault in the instrument. Now if I want to weigh 2 gram of sample, okay, so the instrument will show 2.0 gram, but what will be the actual weight here? What will be the actual weight in this case? Can anyone tell?
1.9. 9.
1.5 how it will be बघा ना 1
9.
ग्रॅम
9.
okay see there is a difference of 0.1 for 1 gram so if you take 2 gram there will be a difference of 0.2 right so it will be actually 1.8 gram म्हणजे प्रत्येक 1 ग्रॅमला कितीचा डिफरन्स इन्स्ट्रुमेंट दाखवत आहे 0.1 ग्रॅम्स राईट मग 2 ग्रॅम डबल क्वांटिटी वी हॅव टेकन सो देर इज अ डिफरन्स ऑफ 0.2 ग्रॅम okay it is simple calculation so 2 gram you wanted to weigh but actually the instrument is giving you 1.8 gram so there is a shortfall of 0.2 gram इथे shortfall आहे 0.2 ग्रॅमचा एवढं कमी येत आहे तुम्हाला इन्स्ट्रुमेंट दाखवते 2 ग्रॅम पण ॲक्च्युअली 1.8 ग्रॅमच ते देते ओके सो दॅट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द फॉल्टी इन्स्ट्रुमेंट and this kind of error you can say this is an additive error so as I am increasing my sample concentration for weighing the error is getting added more and more in amplitude right 1 gram घेतलं तर किती error होती 0.1 gram was the difference right then if I am taking 2 gram then there was a difference of 0.2 gram so the error is getting added similarly sometimes the error will be multiplicative okay अशी multiply पण होऊ शकते because some deviation some fault is happening in the digital instrument or any kind of device right so such kind of errors we consider it as a systematic error because they are introduced systematically इथे बघा ॲडिशन होत जाते सिस्टमॅटिकली ॲडिशन होत जाते किंवा सिस्टमॅटिकली मल्टिप्लिकेशन होत जाते सो दॅट्स वाय वी कन्सिडर देम ॲज अ सिस्टमॅटिक एरर्स determinant errors because we can find out them and non-random error because they are coming from one particular source okay so that's why they are referred as a non-random errors then these errors so we have divided the errors into 2 types broadly now in first type again there are subtypes so this first type can be divided into 3 subtypes as instrumental errors next operational or personal errors and the third one is a methodic or methodological errors so we can judge what kind of these errors are based on the names of these subtypes of systematic errors right instrumental errors so what do you mean by instrumental errors the errors which are given or the errors arising due to the faulty instrument or the reagents containing the impurities which we are using in the instrument okay so your instrument what you are using you are doing let's say instrumental methods of analysis so your instrument itself have some fault then what will happen though you are taking all other precautions but because of the instrument problem you are not able to get the accurate results something is wrong in the instrument right something is wrong in the instrument so for example we can have an examples of these instrumental errors first is balance arm of unequal length okay so you may be aware before using a digital balance you might have used 2-pan balance तुम्हाला माहित आहे ना असे असतात usually and then we have pan here and then we have pan here right and then there is a needle here so this needle we have to point it exactly at the center so if these 2 arms so these are called as arms of balance so these 2 arms they should be of equal length and equal weight so if there is a problem in the construction right if they are not equal then obviously there will be error in the amount of substance what you are going to weigh correct second example is uncalibrated or improperly calibrated weights do you know what is the meaning of calibration anyone we calibrate something what does it mean calibrated weights or calibration ऐकलंय का कधी calibration म्हणजे काय नाही ऐकलं ओके आता मला सांगा आता कोणी सांगितलं आन्सर हू हॅज टोल्ड नाव?
Sanika.
सानिका. सानिका, आता मला सांग किती वाजलेत? व्हॉट इज द टाइम नाव? तुझ्या घड्याळामध्ये किती वाजले?
12:35. 12:35.
वाजलेत. ओके. आता दुसरं कोण आहे इथे? एल आर आहे का? एल आर.
येस सर.
हां, तुझ्या घड्याळामध्ये किती वाजलेत सांग. तुझं घड्याळ बघ.
12:34.
12:34. ओके. अजून एकाने सांगा कोणीतरी तुमच्या घड्याळामध्ये किती वाजलेत? कोणीतरी एकाने सांगा.
12:34.
ओके. तर याच्या घड्याळामध्ये पण 12:34 वाजलेत. आता बघा, तुमच्या घड्याळामध्ये सुद्धा थोडासा डिफरन्स आहे. पहिल्या पर्सनला मी विचारलं, त्याच्या घड्याळामध्ये वाजलेत 12:35 आणि ह्या दोघांच्या घड्याळ सेम आहेत. ओके. सो इट इज 12:34 अँड 12:34. आता थोडासा डिफरन्स आहे याच्यामध्ये. ओके. आता हू इज करेक्ट? These two students are correct in giving the timing, or this person is correct? What is your opinion? Who is correct?
Majority.
Majority.
Majority. It is not here what we call it as a voting or something. Okay, we won't go with the majority. We have certain standard values, right? You know, there is a standard clock. कुठे असतात स्टँडर्ड क्लॉक्स? You will listen to the radio channels or आकाशवाणी, right? दुपारचे 12:35 झालेली आहेत, correct? Or there are standard clocks. So if you go into internet or Google, right? So there is a ideal GST timing. So there are standard clocks which are maintained by the authorities, government authorities, and they will provide the standard timings. Okay, they will provide the standard timing. आता समजा मी स्टँडर्ड क्लॉक बघितलं, you can easily get it on Google. You just Google it, standard clock time in India. So it will give a standard timing. And then let's say if it is giving a standard timing of 12 exactly, let's say 31 p.m. So this is a standard timing. Okay, so all these three may not be correct. They may not be correct. They are not in fact correct if we take this example. So in the standard clock it is showing 12:31 p.m. If you go to the airports and all, they have the standard clocks, right? They won't go with the majority, they go with the standard timing. Okay, so standard timing kiti hai? 12:31 p.m. So what we need to do? Can we correct your clocks? Can this person and this person, can they correct their clock? Yes or no?
Yes.
You can easily correct, right? Because in your wristwatch or wall clock or whatever clock you have, mobile clock, you can adjust your clock timing with that of the standard timing. Okay, आता तुमच्याकडे प्रत्येकाकडे घड्याळ आहेत. So you can adjust the timing as 12:31 p.m. for example. So if we are adjusting our device with that of the standard device, in this case for example I have taken a time. So if I am adjusting my wristwatch timing with that of the standard clock timing, what I am doing? I am calibrating my wristwatch. Have you understood now what is the meaning of calibration? Calibration is making correction in certain instruments or the glasswares or the devices. Okay, now let's say I told you the balance, what we have taken an example in earlier slide. I am supposed to weigh 1 gram, but instrument is showing 1 gram, but actually it is giving me 0.9 gram. So what I can do? Can I do the correction here? Yes, it is possible. I will take standard weights. So standard weights are available. Okay, so in market or in the laboratories you will get the standard weights. So these weights are approved and these are calibrated. So you take this weight, let's say the weight, it will be like this, and it will be written here, this is 1 gram. So I know this particular mass or weight is standard. So I will take this standard weight of this particular mass and I will put on the balance. Now balance it should show how much? It should show 1 gram. But if it is not showing 1 gram, if it is showing less than that, or if it is showing more than that, then that correction factor I can introduce in the balance. Nowadays we have a balance which can be auto calibrated. Okay, so there is a calibration button in the instrument, right? जसं तुम्ही घड्याळ, आता मी सांगितलं स्टँडर्ड क्लॉकला पुढे किंवा पाठीमागे करणार. तुमचं घड्याळ पाठीमागे असेल तर थोडंसं पुढे घेणार स्टँडर्ड क्लॉकच्या टायमिंगनुसार, किंवा पुढे असेल तर त्याला मागे घेणार. अशाच प्रकारे ह्या ॲनालिटिकल बॅलन्समध्ये किंवा जे काही आपण इन्स्ट्रुमेंट स्टडी करतो मेथड्स ऑफ ॲनालिसिसमध्ये, तर त्याच्यामध्ये अशा प्रकारचं करेक्शन किंवा ऑटो कॅलिब्रेशन इज पॉसिबल. Okay, so we can calibrate the instruments by these kinds of things. So I hope you have understood what is the meaning of calibration. So we can calibrate the instruments so that whatever fault is there in the instrument, we can take care of that. So if the instrument is faulty, can we find out the instrument is faulty or not? If the instrument is faulty, can we find out?
Yes.
Yes, you can find out, right? So you can take an example of again this clock timing. If your wristwatch is faulty, can you find out? Yes. How to find out? After every month you decide the date. On every month first week I will check my clock timing with that of the standard clock, right? If it is matching, then it is calibrated. If it is not matching, then you have to adjust your clock with that of the standard clock. So that is how you can calibrate your watch. Similarly, you can calibrate the instruments. So you have the standard weights which are approved, which are correct. So after every month, or you can decide the time interval, and after that particular time interval you take those weights, put on the balance, just check whether it is showing 1 gram or not, right? If it is showing, then it is fine. If it is not showing, then you need to apply the correction factor. So what I mean to say, you are able to determine, you are able to find out who is or what is going wrong in the instrument. And if you find out what is wrong in the instrument, then you can overcome or avoid, you can avoid that instrument. You can take the new one, or you can send it for repair if it is not getting calibrated, right? So these kind of things we can do, and we can take a corrective actions, right? So if your instruments are not properly calibrated, you can have the instrumental errors in your method, right? Then I told you an example first, unbalanced arms, then uncalibrated instruments like digital balance, right? We have discussed this. Then incorrectly graduated burettes. You have used a burettes in your titrations, right? And these burettes have the calibration 0 ml, 1 ml, 2 ml and so on. So if these calibrations are wrong because they are printed manually or with the kind of some devices, right? So if there is some mistake in the calibrations, obviously you will read the wrong burette volume, and then ultimately it will lead with the errorful results, right? So these kind of things are considered as a systematic determinant or non-random error, right? Because they are happening from a particular source. You can find out them, you can avoid them, you can correct them, and these are the errors which are happening mainly because of the instruments. So you can avoid those by doing calibrations, right? Calibration is a main way to overcome these kinds of instrumental errors. Okay, all right. Now this is the first subtype of systematic errors. Then second subtype of systematic error is the operational or personal error. So what is the meaning of these personal or operational error? When error occur during the operation or carrying out the experiment is called as the operational error. Okay. So I told you one person, group A and group B, I gave an example. So why these two groups are differing in their results, though they are working in same lab, though I have given same sample, though they have used same water and other reagents, but why and from where these differences are coming? Group A is reading वेगळे, then group B is reading वेगळे. Why this is happening? Because of the personal error. आता sometimes what happens, let's say group A ला मी 3 reading घ्यायला सांगितले, 3 same sample दिले आणि replicate मध्ये घ्यायला सांगितले. They did the titration and in the first run they got 10 ml, second run मध्ये 10.2 ml, and in third run they got, let's say, 10.5 ml. Have you observed these kinds of reading when you had done the titration?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, they are very common, right? Very rarely we will get exactly the same reading in the replicate measurement. We are repeating the measurement, right? And then we take the average of that, ज्याला आपण म्हणतो constant view rate reading. So why these differences are happening? The same person is performing, right? I am the person who is performing the reading, right? I am repeating experiment, but every time I repeat the experiment in same lab, still I am getting some deviation, differences in the result. So that is because of my personal error. I am having one particular way of titration in first, then second time slight differences in my skill, maybe by in the observing the color and so on. So these are the errors, and which we refer it as a personal error, or during performing this operation we are introducing those errors, right? So what are examples? When you transfer the solution from one class to other class, right, some solvent or something will remain in the other flask, right? So that is small deviation, but that will also be considered as an error. Then use of indicator. Most of the titrations it is written add 2 drops of indicator, right? 2 drops of indicator. So as per my knowledge, 2 drops are different, and by the other person he may add, instead of 2 he may add 3 drops, or one person may add with the glass rod, other person may add with the pipette. One person may use 1 ml pipette, one person may use 10 ml pipette, and then the concept of drops are different, right? If you are pipetting 2 drops by the 10 ml pipette, it will be more volume compared to pipetting 2 drops with the 1 ml pipette. Obviously in this case 2 drops are smaller in volume compared to 10 ml 2 drops, right? Then poor color discrimination. So group A will have their own kind of judgment for discriminating the color change, let's say from colorless to pink. So as per their knowledge, their discrimination of color is different, and group B may have the color discrimination in a different way, though there are slight changes, right? Then reading uncertainty while reading the scale. So some people, they do not know how to read the burette, which meniscus they have to see. So you know, for colorless solution we usually observe a lower meniscus, and for colored solution we observe upper meniscus. Okay, so even though they are knowing, then again there is some difference of opinion in reading those scale, writing down these measurements as 10 ml. So group A may say it is a 10 ml, and same burette reading group B may refer it as 10.1 ml. So these are considered as a reading uncertainties. The next example is incomplete drying of sample or the precipitate. Okay, so some methods are there where we need to dry the sample before analyzing them, or we need to filter the precipitate and we need to weigh the precipitate, dry the precipitate. So some people may dry for 1 hour, some may dry for 1 hour and 5 minutes. So again there are uncertainties. Then underweighing of precipitate. Okay, so this is another kind of problem which we encounter in gravimetric analysis. Okay, so we'll see that when we discuss the gravimetry in detail. Then overweighing of precipitate. Overweighing of precipitate, that is more than the normal, right? Then lack of skill and insufficient cooling of precipitate. So some people, though they are appointed as analysts, though they are doing analysis, but they don't have all the required skill. So if some skills are missing, then there will be a problem. And some people, they do not cool the solution sufficiently, right? So some titrations require cooling under tap water. It is written 5 minutes, they finish it with 3 minutes, right? So those kinds of error will have minor deviations in the reading, but that will be considered as errors. And then we have mathematical errors in the calculations, right? So sometimes calculator to calculator with the decimal point there are some deviations, right? And because of the human mentality, right? Because humans are bound to have or do the errors. So sometimes mathematical errors are also happen during the calculation. Then errors during the transfer of solution from one class to the other class, that is also possible. So these are an examples of operational or personal error. And who is responsible for this personal error or operational error? Obviously the person who is performing the analysis, that is the analyst, is mainly responsible for these kinds of errors. Okay, so I told you an examples: inability in judging the color, and then error in reading the burette. So these are examples of operational or personal errors. Then next, third subtype of systematic error is methodic or methodological errors. So these are the most serious errors, what would we say, because if the person is doing error, we can train the person and we can ask the person to do it very skillfully so that we can avoid those errors, we can minimize those errors. If the instrument is faulty, we can do the calibration, we can replace the instrument so that the instrumental errors can be avoided or it can be minimized. But if the errors are there itself in the method, let's say I'm following a titrimetry method, redox titration I'm performing. So the method what I'm using, let's say I'm doing iodometry. So if this method itself has error, then it is very difficult to overcome these kinds of errors. So most of the errors can be minimized or corrected, but the errors that are inherent, that are present in the method itself, they are very difficult to minimize, right? For example, errors occur due to co-precipitation of impurities. So again, this is an example of gravimetry. So in gravimetry, we want the precipitate of our analyte, but along with analyte, some impurities are also getting precipitated. Okay, so they are quite difficult to remove those kinds of impurities. We can, at the most, we can minimize them, but totally avoiding such kind of co-precipitants is very difficult. Then sometimes side reactions happens, then post precipitation, right? And then sometimes what happens, your analyte may get volatilized during the method of analysis, right? So these are the examples of methodological error. Your method itself has some limitation. There is a problem in the method itself. Then what you need to do, if you are not able to correct that, then you have to shift to the other method which is free from error. Okay, so yeah, we can take some more examples. So in titrimetry analysis, error occur due to failure of reaction. Sometimes the reaction is not instantaneous, it is not happening quickly. So then we have a problem of it is not getting changing the color sharply. Sharp end point is not observed. Then it is very difficult to judge at what point we have to stop the addition of the standard solution. Sometimes side reaction, I told you, then reaction of substance other than the constituent being determined. So your analyte should have a signal, but impurities are also giving a signal. Difference between the observed endpoint and the stoichiometric equivalence point of reaction, that is titration error, is more. That is because of the method. So one way of minimizing these errors, we can perform a blank reading. Generally we do a blank titration where we do not take the sample. Other than sample, we follow same procedure. So if at all instrument or your method is giving some error, that will be encountered. If the solvent is having some color change, that will be encountered. If impurities are present in the solvent or the reagent other than sample, that will be encountered. So we can identify those and we can subtract our sample reading from the blank reading, and then we can minimize to some extent the methodological error. Sometimes these errors are intolerable, they are in great volume or amount, then we need to change our approach, we need to change the method of analysis. Okay, but sometimes, very rarely, we do not have the options to choose the other methods, then we have to use the same method. Though it has error, then we can minimize by some ways, right? Like I told you, the blank reading. So from method to method, ways of minimizing those errors are different. Okay, they are particular for that. So this is the first type of error. So I hope you have understood why they are called as a systematic error, because they have been introduced systematically. Why they are determinant? Because we can determine them, and they are coming non-randomly. Okay, they are coming non-randomly. Okay, So this is the first type. Then second type, I think we can discuss it tomorrow, and then we will see the difference between the systematic and non-systematic errors, or determinant and non-determinant errors.